Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I'm welcoming Arianna Camille onto the show, and we're doing something a little differently. She's actually going to be talking about her story as it relates to dance. So, Arianna is an incredible dancer. She's danced at very high levels all over the world, actually, which is amazing. And she's my personal go to person for any kind of dance related thing because if you didn't know, I am a terrible dancer. So I'm just going to turn it over to our show recording, and I hope you enjoy. So, Arianna, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on here.
So, as I mentioned in the intro, Arianna was a dancer in New York City on Broadway. She's a model. She kind of just does everything. She has her holistic fitness company, which again, I linked to that. But starting with the dance thing, Arianna, would you mind just kind of breaking down your dance story for us? Because most of us don't really know what the dance world is about. And I say it like that because I feel like it is very unique. And people today don't really express themselves physically as many dancers do.
Yeah, so I guess every dancer has their own story. There's not really like a set path, but I still think within that mine's a little bit unconventional of how I became a dancer. So I actually took my first dance class when I was 2 years old. And I liked it at the time. I don't remember it, but just from like what my mom's told me, that when I had like my first performance, I was so excited to be on stage. That's like the one thing that she would share with me. But then after that 1 year, I told my mom I don't want to dance anymore. So I just danced for 1 year when I was 2, and then I stopped for a really, really long time. And when I was a kid, I was always just like really creative with everything. I would write, I would play music. Music was really my thing. I had kind of a natural talent for music, and I started pursuing that really seriously. Like even into high school, just because it came naturally to me, I was like, oh, I'll just like become a musician when I get older. It just seemed like the natural thing. But then I kind of realized that I really liked music, but I didn't have like the passion for it. I didn't really enjoy practicing. I kind of just got by on my talent and stuff, and so it didn't really make sense for a career. But then I must have been watching like videos of dancers on YouTube, I think, when I was like 13, and the way they moved, it just looked like it felt so good to like connect with music that way. And I was like, that's what I want to do. But most dancers start training to be professional by the time they're like 10, 12, because it's such a career you have to start young because it's so physically demanding and it's just very difficult to learn the skills. So I started taking some dance classes at like a local studio when I was 13, just kind of like casually. But then I got to high school and I was like, okay, if I really want to do this, like I have to get more serious about it. So I auditioned for a ballet academy in Philadelphia called the Rock School when I was 15. And this is one of the top ballet institutions in the nation. And looking back, it's really a miracle that they accepted me because I was so far behind for my age at 15. I guess they saw something in me. I don't know. But yeah, looking back, I was like, wow. Because that was really what started me on my journey to like a professional career was there.
That's crazy, and how it kind of takes all those pieces from your childhood, like you were saying, music, and it just kind of built off of that. Like you were interested in music, but you didn't realize at the time that you were interested in maybe expressing how you felt to the music, not the music itself.
Exactly. That's exactly it, yeah.
That's interesting. And dance itself, you said you were kind of behind some other people, and you're saying just how demanding the sport is. And just sitting here thinking about it, I really can't think of any other sport that puts the mobility and strength requirements that dance does on your body. I mean, people jumping up and then landing in a split. I don't think I could do either one of those the way you all do that on the stage and stuff. It is very impressive and demanding. So what does it look like inside that ballet dance academy, teenage girl to, was it late teens, early 20s roughly? So what did that look like? What was that environment like?
So I was there for 4 years, and it was really, really physically demanding. So I went from dancing before I entered the school about like 6 hours a week to literally 6 hours a day. So that was a really big lifestyle change. Of course, my body really changed. Like, I'd always been slender, but I didn't really have, like, muscle strength or much flexibility. But, like, my muscle-to-fat ratio really changed, and I just, like, there was a lot of internal changes going on. So that was, like, one thing. And actually, the other thing, like, as physically demanding as it was, I honestly think it was much more mentally demanding, the training. So besides being like a lot older than a lot of the other students, so I was in like a level with girls who are mostly like 12 and stuff. So that was really difficult because I felt like I wasn't as good as everyone else, and in a way I wasn't because I was so much older. And there's a lot of pressure. So the ballet world is probably the most close-minded in terms of differences in like body type and age. And so because of that, it made it even harder. And so the school that I went to was a great school in many ways, and a lot of people really benefited from their time there. But at the same time, it was also very toxic in certain ways. There was a lot of favoritism. It's kind of hard to talk about it because at the time, looking back, I don't know why, I felt really, my self-esteem really plummeted during my years at the school. And I would be in class, I'd be working so hard, and a lot of the teachers would just ignore me, not cast me in shows. If I got cast in a performance, I'd be in the back for 5 seconds and stuff. So that mental why am I not good enough? Why are they not seeing me? It just kind of made my self-esteem go down a lot. But at the same time, as much as I felt like I was just so bad, but I wasn't bad, I just hadn't had the training everyone else had. I really wanted it. So I showed up to every class, even when I was sick, which, is not, I learned later to take care of myself. But I would push through and everything. And I'm really still unlearning so many of those things, those toxic mental thoughts I had about myself and toxic behaviors that really is a reflection of the dance world overall. It's definitely not unique to this school. But also, as much as I felt ignored by teachers who just were oh, she's too old to actually have a career or whatever, there was a handful of teachers that on the opposite end of the spectrum, I had such a great relationship and they really believed in me, and they saw things in me that I didn't see in myself at all. I was super low self-esteem, I can't do this, but I just keep going because I love it so much. And I'm still in contact with so many of those teachers. There's 3 that I could think of who really were you're good, you just need a little more confidence and stuff. And without them, I don't know what I would have done, because there was times when I'd be in class and I would literally be am I invisible? Because I'm just not getting anything. So, and I was already really shy. Maybe you can't tell now, but I was really introverted when I was a kid. And so that plus the mental intensity of the just trying to survive in that environment and thrive was really hard. So there was 4 years of that. But then I started to get out of that once in my last year at the school when I was 18. I started to expand more outside of just those walls, because it's easy to get stuck in one person's point of view and one person's opinion of yourself. And I started guest performing with a company outside of the city, and that was my first time getting paid to perform. And I was wow, so in one environment I'm ignored, and in the other I'm dancing these roles that I would have never been casted in at the school. So yeah, I was still in Philadelphia at this point, and that's kind of when things started shifting. Yeah.
It's amazing how much of an impact those certain people just, it doesn't take many, just a couple really good people who always believe in you and never give up. It's amazing to see the impact they can have on you long term. And I really feel like this story comes full circle for you, because I know mental health is something that you cannot stress enough now, and I'm really excited to dive into that with some of your other things like essential oils and some different things you do later on in our next episode, actually. But was there anything else that you did at the time that really helped get you through, other than just clinging to those positive words and that vision that only you could see?
Well, I started because obviously, like, through dance training, you'll build strength and flexibility, but like that itself is really, especially if you're starting late, not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing Pilates actually to try to catch up and build strength. So that was how I kind of got into Pilates, which I now teach. I now became certified. So that helped me build strength faster than if I was just doing ballet classes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, honestly, besides like those words of encouragement, it was really like my own like mental resilience, I guess, that got me through it. Like, kind of passed down from like my dad. He always like was an example of like really hard work, and he like came to this country and started a business like with his friends, but like on his own. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of like spirit, the like kind of entrepreneurial spirit to just keep pushing through, was something like I saw when I was a kid and kind of passed down to me. So like, even though I really doubted myself, I just kept going to class. So like eventually, you know, things would progress. And but also at the same time, I'd been dancing ballet for 4 years straight, like almost exclusively ballet. Mm-hmm. And by my last year in the school, I was feeling really burnt out. I was like, I don't even know if I want to keep dancing, because like I'm just exhausted, and I feel like there's so much more to dance than just ballet. And so by my last year, I was waking up early to work, 6 a.m. shifts at Starbucks. Then I'd go to dance. And then a few times a week, I would commute out the city to rehearse in the evening. So my days were like so long. I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm not really finding a job in a ballet company because I don't really have the ballet body. I'm like shorter, and they're just really close-minded, I guess. That's what it's saying. So, but then at the encouragement of one of these teachers who really believed in me, I started auditioning for some like modern and contemporary dance schools in New York. And I got accepted into my top choice, which was the Alvin Ailey School in Manhattan. And I was so excited. I literally didn't sleep all night when I found out. So I was just like, yay, like, oh my gosh, like I got accepted into the school. Like, this is amazing. And so I moved to New York when I was 19. And that was like the next chapter of everything.
Right. And when I first met you, it was just before the pandemic and everything happened. So you were still in New York City, and you were still very focused on that modern, contemporary, and I'd say a little bit of like salsa and Hispanic style dancing as well. So how did you get there? You said you went to New York when you were 19. How did you get from day one in New York City, which I'm sure was quite overwhelming, to where I met you in February?
Yeah, so I was accepted to the program at the Ailey School, which was a 3-year program. Mm-hmm. When I first moved to New York, it was just like, there was just so much, like it was so big. I remember my first day, I went for a walk in Central Park, and I walked for like 2 hours, like north, and I didn't get out of the park. Like, it was just so big.
Wow.
But so yeah, at the Ailey School, we studied like all kinds of dance. So like we still did ballet, but we also did multiple kinds of modern, contemporary, jazz. We did a little tap, theater dance, West African, like everything. So I was like, yes, this is what I want. Like, not just one style, like all these different kinds. And that's really still reflected. Like when I choreograph, like you can't really pinpoint one style. Like it's kind of a blend of things, because like that's when I'm happy, when I'm doing like multiple things at once. So, and then so I had the Ailey School to train at, which was a really great school. Like most dance institutions, there was still that favoritism, but it wasn't like the toxic environment that I had been at before. And at the same, there's so much dance in New York. So I wasn't just training at the school, I was doing all these things outside of it. So that's how I got into like Latin dance, was through studying outside the school. And then in New York, there's just so many, like, you just like go to these social events and there's just these great salsa dancers. So I just kind of like hopped right into that social dancing world and started picking up those skills as well. And so I was still going through like my transition of learning to have self-confidence in things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess just like having that great exposure really boosted my self-confidence. And I started doing things like I stopped waiting for someone to give me permission to perform, and I started just giving it to myself. So I actually would busk in New York. So busk is street performing. I would perform in the subways. I would perform in Central Park. So literally, I went from this girl who was so shy and thought she was terrible to like, I'm just gonna go dance in Central Park. And people would like make donations as I was performing in things. And that really helped me as a performer, because usually we're on stage and the audience is like in the dark. You can't really see people. But with this, people were like walking right by me, and I could see like what would make someone stop and watch and what would make someone just like keep walking. And I really got like that close interaction with people, and that was like a huge boost, which a lot of dancers don't busk. And if you do it, if anyone's listening and wants to do it, do it with a friend, because sometimes there's crazy people in New York, so just for safety. But yeah, I like grew so much from that. I did that. I started teaching. I'd been teaching in Philadelphia a little bit, but I started teaching more in New York. I started teaching adult beginners, which was super like inspiring, eye-opening, that these people would put like so much effort into something that wasn't going to become a career. And I had learned so much from those teachers at the ballet school in Philadelphia, who ignored me in class about how to not teach. Because I learned that you can look at someone and see them as they are, but a really good teacher sees the intention and the energy that a student is putting in and sees what that can become. And I started using that in teaching these adult students, and just like really encouraging them to like not get so focused on where they are, but see like with certain intention how you can grow. And it was like really amazing and inspiring. That's some of the things I did. I also I was accepted to a dance program in Amsterdam one summer, and that was amazing.
That sounds incredible.
Wow. It was like international dancers, and I was just there like dancing all day, and I realized that I didn't just like performing, I really liked choreography. Like that was my thing, which made so much sense, because when I was a kid I was always creating. So that also like boosted that, and I did other stuff in New York too, but I won't like keep the
No, I love it. It really sounds like New York and just dance in general have really helped shape you as a person, not just like who you are, but just the cultural experiences and the travel and the influences of other people that you've picked up along the way. And you mentioned about teaching there. I mean, ultimately, you are leading and living by example. I mean, I don't think of anyone better to teach something like dance than someone who's literally studied it for 8 years and has been doing it for over half their life. I mean, it's simply incredible. Very cool stuff. So, from this, because I, for one, and anyone who's listening or knows me will know, I am a awful dancer. So if there was someone listening who might be kind of like me, what advice would you give them as far as like getting started? Because although we're not all going to end up on Broadway, it's still kind of something different, unique, has a lot of benefits, and like we've talked about, it's almost a language within itself.
Yeah. Oh, well, I would say number one, which is easier said than done, is to not judge yourself while you're dancing, because that's the number one thing that will hold you back. And one, it takes the fun out of it. And two, like literally the best dancers are the people who dance unapologetically, even if their technique is not that great. If you dance with confidence, people will watch you because they're like, wow, like I want to be like that, you know? So that's number one. And I guess too, that's hard to do if you're kind of dancing in a social setting, but if you're just dancing on your own in your room or wherever, just notice if you're judging yourself, because that's what I used to do when I was training. I would judge myself like before I even did it, so that was not helpful. So just notice if you're like saying those things in your mind, making up stories, and just like, yeah, allow yourself to just express yourself, because we all, before we talk, we all like express ourselves with our bodies, right, when we're like babies and everything. So it's more natural than you would think if you give yourself the space to do it. I think anyone can dance. You just need to give yourself the space and maybe take a few lessons if you want to get technical. But yeah, that's like, honestly, that itself, like not judging yourself, it will take care of so many things if you want to get started.
Makes sense. And then I know some people really like to watch dance, obviously. Hence the whole reason New York City and Philadelphia and those places were such big areas for dance. But obviously the pandemic has kind of put a damper on things. Is there any way for people to still be watching and supporting dancers during this time or moving forward?
Yeah, so COVID was crazy when that happened. I was working with a modern dance company downtown. I was like just kind of getting started with them, and then this happened. So it's a bit hard. There are companies that are still performing virtually. A lot of companies have started like either live streaming or releasing their archives for like on a subscription basis. It really depends though. Like for me, I'm more of an independent artist, so I have been like continuing to create during this pandemic, but like me posting a choreography on YouTube doesn't really make me any money. So and for like the Broadway shows and stuff, some of those I think have been sharing like archives of their performances, but really like not much. And if you're talking in terms of like Broadway and even just general theaters, like it's not just the dancers who are involved. The makeup artists, the costume designers, stagehands, like so many people are out of work. And I think really like obviously monetary support is really important, especially in New York, because I completely moved out because I just couldn't afford my rent. So that's difficult, but I think more to keep like the spirit of the arts going and to really continue to value it, because it's in general in the United States arts isn't valued as much as in like Europe, you could say. So that's a thing already, and then I feel like during this pandemic it's kind of been even more emphasized, that lack of value in terms of like the way that funding has been organized for like gig workers and like funding for companies. So I think the best thing you can do, if there's like artists on like social media, like support their work, do things that you can do for free, like share it, like it, comment, like just like engage with it. And if you are able to financially support like companies and things, that's great. But again, there's like a whole percentage of dancers who are freelancers and independent artists who work like on a show by show basis that won't benefit from that. So that's a bit of a tough one.
Yeah. It's almost like we need dance to kind of take a turn towards like what music is, where you have like Spotify and Apple Music and you pay a subscription service and you can kind of like watch all these different dances and different things from different people. If anyone knows how to make that happen, I'd be willing to help out with that. I have no idea where to start, but that would be really cool. There's one other thing I was going to ask you. It's just leaving my mind right now. But in general, this just seems like really awesome stuff to me because, as I said, I am not someone who really knows a whole lot about dancing, but it really amazes me because, you know, you see people, men, women, and anywhere in between, doing these things that it's just like it looks so cool, and not just the physical side of it, but like we were talking about, the mental side of it, the feelings of confidence and self-esteem boosting that you get out of doing it. Just a very neat and unique thing that I really can't compare to anything else. I mean, I think our closest comparison, like we said, was just music and making music in general. And I guess you could say that you can express yourself through music. But, I remembered now. This is totally off topic from what I was just talking about, but we'll just change gears. I was going to say, we were talking about mental health and all this dance and stuff. Science, which you said seems to be where all the support went to during the pandemic, continues to point back to things like dance and boosting your self-esteem and confidence levels and music and the arts as the top things to boost and support your mental health. So it's kind of ironic how we pour money this way and they say to do these things, but those things don't get the money. We just keep pouring money in the other direction. Just funny how that breaks down. But no, I think your story is very inspirational and just amazing what can happen when you just figure out what you want and go after it and don't let anyone else slow you down or get in your way. Not even a pandemic.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I know before you were doing choreography, correct? You mentioned that a few times. So you choreograph like weddings and other things like that for people, right?
Yeah, I would choreograph dances for wedding couples, which was really nice to be like part of their special day. That also, I used my skills of like teaching adult beginners because most people like hadn't danced before. So it's definitely a challenge coming from the professional dance world and then creating a choreography that's still interesting and creative within people who don't have as much dance skills. But that was like a boost to my creativity because whenever you're constrained and you have to be creative, then you grow from there. So I loved working with my wedding couples. So many of them, like all of them, had to postpone their weddings because of the pandemic. But hopefully I'll get back to that at some point. And I would perform at just like events around the city, and I would choreograph for that. I performed at like an art gallery that was presenting work based off of like the Harlem Renaissance style. So I choreographed the dance to like Ella Fitzgerald, jazz, like from the same era, like the 20s, 30s. What else? Yeah. Oh, when I was in Amsterdam, I had I got to perform my choreography there, which was amazing. And the music was done by my boyfriend, who's a musician. So we kind of like both got to like put that on our resumes after that. Yeah, but I'm just like really just getting started with that. During this pandemic, I've also really been, before the pandemic, I was really interested in dance on film. Like, there's one thing to like perform in a theater and just like set up the camera and record it, and it's another thing to like really get creative with like angles and like how you are recording that. Because I think you can kind of capture so many different emotions because the camera can really like zoom in and influence what you're seeing. So I was already interested in that, and then during this pandemic, I started getting more into that. So I asked a few of my dance friends who are now living all over the world back at home to join in on a project, and I choreographed something. I filmed myself teaching it, sent out the teaching video to these dancers all over the world, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to get back because I'm just sending out this video. I'm not there to like provide instruction. But then all the dancers sent their videos back to me, and I kind of copied and clipped them together into a piece where we're all dancing simultaneously. So that was really cool to like just send your work out there and then someone sends back them dancing it and you're like, wow, I love that.
That is really cool. And
it was really cool. So.
You think too it wouldn't have been possible to do something like that just a few years ago. It's crazy how far we've come. The more we talk, the more like amazing points you keep bringing up, like from the power couple approach to just everything. And I mean, I guess the only question I have left is what's next? What does the future hold for you? Because 2020 is almost ending, and
I know. Yeah, so there's a lot of like uncertainties in my future. I was like kind of like really grinding in New York right before this. I was working as background talent in TV shows like not Grey's Anatomy, New Amsterdam, which is on Netflix. If you've seen that, so I was like, yes, I'm starting to get into film and choreography and like all these things, and that kind of was like at a halt. Like none of that, even like the acting jobs I was doing, that's not back at all. Like the film industry is really taking a hit too. So this time has really been like a lot of personal growth for me because I've like been forced to kind of like look at myself and what I'm doing right now and seeing how I can like keep moving forward. And so I started like teaching online. I've started using my Pilates certification skills a lot. Not as much dance teaching, but definitely doing that too. So going forward, I really like the online actually environment of teaching because you can reach so many people that you would never meet in person. So I want to really keep going with that. But at the same time, my ultimate goal is to choreograph for movies and films. So that is still very much there, and I'm just every day trying to like cultivate my creativity as much as I can and just keep that going and work on getting back to a city so I can get back to networking and stuff. But so still personal projects to come, still like little dance films that I'm working on. But in terms of all the rest, yeah, I think the whole dance community is just kind of like trying to take it day by day and figure it out. So.
And it amazes me how you do all of these things, not just the choreographing, but you actually record all your own dance stuff and do all of your own editing as well, which it's a very time-consuming process, and
it is.
There's a lot to learn there, and I'm definitely not the best at video editing or anything like that. I just kind of find it tedious, just like, you put so much time in for such little amounts of film, but the fact that you have the patience for that is incredible in itself. This has been a amazing, what are we at, 33 minutes, so I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us about your story. Not something I've ever really done with anyone before, but I feel like dance is a very unique form of not just health and fitness, but just, like we said, a means to express yourself. And most people don't really know much about it. So I'm glad we were able to kind of dive into it a little deeper and clear up all those, well, for lack of a better term, misconceptions and gray points, because I know I had a lot going into this. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me and giving me the space to share my story. It's been really awesome talking with you.
So thanks again, as always, for tuning in and listening to this episode of the Brawn Body Podcast. If you like the show, please feel free to like, subscribe, share it with a friend. And also, if you want to engage with us or Arianna on social media, you can follow my page at Brawn Body, Brawn with a W, on all major platforms. And you can find Arianna at Evolve Movement Co. So Evolve MVMT.co. Thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.